There's another response video, just as sort of an extension of the discussion on psychology. So I guess we're getting a little, at least I am tending to get more specific than maybe others want to go, but you know, the key part of what you said, I suppose, you know, in Matt's video anyway, is the synthesis between emotion and intellect. And yeah, that's a real tricky one. Like I said, to me, the real subject is this conditioned brain, because it's not something. Conditioning is, you know, whether it's a sexual preference, we have our aesthetic preferences, then I guess even our comfort in terms of how we communicate, how we socialize people, how much, you know, whether we like hugging or kissing or handshakes or whatever the thing we are comfortable with. I mean, some of these are stronger than others, but we really don't have any capacity, any realistic capacity to change those preferences, to redefine them. I mean, I could theoretically say to myself, well, life would be much easier if I was a homosexual, because, yeah, I understand men, you know, I mean, women are complicated and they're emotional and they need, like, you gotta remember their birthday or they go crazy and they got all kinds of bullshit. Yeah, and a man is simple, you know, I mean, he has the penis and the thing and you do this and that's it, you know. It's not complicated. The relationship has a simplicity to it that is appealing. But how would you can't choose by volition to say, yes, I want to change those preferences built inside of me. I mean, even in a normal heterosexual relationship, I mean, it would be convenient not to find, you know, to find fat beautiful, because, you know, most people are overweight, so that would be kind of to your advantage in life. Yeah, okay, let's, you know, if you can make the things that are less appealing to other people appealing to yourself, you know, you can get far in life. And I mean, obviously this conditioning thing can go in all kinds of directions. I mean, there's people who are conditioned by conditioning. They like violence. It excites them, it interests them, it does something for them. I mean, there's people like having sex with dogs. I mean, there's all kinds of people out there with all kinds of conditioning. I mean, even the pedophiles, the rest of it, there's all these people trapped with these preferences and these desires, and they've still got to interact in this social environment that is not going to embrace those desires. That's not going to provide any practical way to accommodate those desires, beyond controlling them, beyond finding some way to suppress them, or to find some means to find enough satisfaction to find it tolerable to live in a structured environment that you don't fit in. And I guess for me, my conditioning is certainly much more subtle. I mean, I'm not talking about drives and desires so much as I'm talking about, you know, my anxiety disorder, different things. Yeah, I'm just so incompatible with structure. I mean, I always was, even as a kid. I mean, I hated going to school. I hated, you know, I'm a little too wild an animal for this confined world of order. And as much as I'm so ordered intellectually and that it's so much, I mean, I'd almost say I'm cultured, and I like sophistication, I like organization, I like things to have that symmetrical and fine refinement would be a nice word. I like refinement. I like things to be finished. You know, my nature is completely different. My nature is, you know, hungers for a different world, and you know, it puts you in this. You know, I think every person struggles with this different aspect to themselves. I mean, they have aspirations for themselves that just don't mix with the world they have to live in, and you know, the psychologists sort of come at the problem with the sledgehammer of a chemical, like a chemical is going to change something. Certainly it changes the disposition and function of the brain, so you can create the illusion of an end product, a chemistry that's different, so it isn't as reactive, or it isn't this, or it isn't that, or it's more pleasantly comfortable. It's not as capable of feeling the symptoms of angst or tension or some other thing, but it's a sledgehammer. It is not a scalpel. It is not. They're not getting to the root of the problem. They are creating something to mask the problem, to make the to just mitigate the problem as a social disorder. So they create a socially functional individual, not necessarily an actualized individual, whatever that might mean. And so I just say that there's the dichotomy, and even being able to figure out what is really a disease and what is not. I mean, it's all a relative term. In one world a person is diseased, change the world a little, and they're no longer diseased, because in one society it works, and in another society it's not going to work. And but like the real problem is this whole idea of how do you fix it? How do you, the conditioning is imposed on us so subtly. I mean, we don't really have any control over that part of our life. I mean, how we're raised and what we're exposed to, and there is such a disconnect. I mean, there's no rational purity. I mean, you can't just send your kid to a private school where they get conditioned the right way, because the conditioning is still going to be dependent on all these interactions, and whether they got beat up by bullies, or whether the right girl said hi to them on the right day, or whether this happened or whether that happens, all going to decide what happens to them. What kind of hat the teacher was wearing is going to somehow affect their psychology in the future, in terms of how they're going to react to the things they have to interact with later in life. And so to me, that's the real fascinating part of psychology, is trying to figure out what do you do with this? How do you mitigate that problem? Because reconditioning, I don't know if you've read A Clockwork Orange. I would suspect you have, since you've read everything, or seen the movie. I mean, I think the movie's really good. Adds so much to it. It was done so well. But yeah, I mean, the whole idea of reconditioning is it's a real problem, because it's more expensive than the brokenness, in a way. I mean, I would say that much. There's so much trouble to recondition somebody. You're almost better off, back to the toaster argument, you're almost better off just investing in a new toaster. I mean, just start over. Build yourself a test tube baby, whatever, give them the same name, start all over, because I don't know if you can fix it. And I'm sort of in that position where my conditioning is so old, and it's existed so long, that I've basically now finally come to the conclusion that, yeah, I'm just not going to get out of it. It's something I'm going to have to live with till I'm dead. And what price would you pay to fix it anyway? I mean, I don't know if I would, that's part of the problem with it, I suppose. Part of the problem with me ever changing was the fact that I would never really invest in what change requires, because it is such you basically have to walk through the fire. You basically have to expose yourself to the very thing you're trying to avoid, and you have to tarnish the very thing you love. I mean, it's like you have to destroy the thing you love, and you have to learn to love the thing you hate. And to make that turnaround is emotionally unpleasant, until I guess we have a mechanism to make that process easier. I mean, I know some chemicals can make some of it easier, but it's still an interesting part of this whole equation. I mean, they've done some work with some homosexuals trying to convert them, recondition them, and of course, the homosexual community gets really upset about this, and I don't see anything wrong with it as a science project. I mean, as long as the participants are willing, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because it's sort of a very good model for the overall problem of psychology, and how to, I'm not going to say deviant psychology, but I just mean psychology that a person might want to change about themselves. if I want to have a conditioning that is more reflective of my intellectual appreciation, it would be nice if we had the faculty or the tools to be able to do that, to say to ourselves, okay, I have a great respect for rodents intellectually, and so I would like to feel that respect. Or I have a fear of snakes, and I would like to eliminate that fear. Through some simpler process than immersing yourself in the fear until you get past it. So anyway, that's sort of where that's a part of psychology I find the most interesting.